Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, to vilify somebody for being themselves or whatever, especially in an industry that in itself is 100% theatrical, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And so hyper gay.
Welcome back to Show Me Yours podcast with Jackie and Jonny. I'm Jackie Agnew.
I'm Jonny DeVito.
And thank you so much for tuning in again. Or if this is your first time, welcome.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. We're about to say like Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, but we have no idea when this is going to reach this person in the future.
That's true.
They have no idea that we're doing this on Boxing Day 2021.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Which is, it is Boxing Day. And maybe when you're listening, it's the day after Boxing Day.
Hopefully. I mean, that would mean that you're like a number one flasher.
Yeah,
right? Like
you're flashing. You're just waiting to flash out here.
Like a good flasher waits to flash.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? Like you're lying in wait, right? I mean, you could feel the breeze coming up underneath
you
the trench
have
coat.
like the trench coat like buttoned up tight.
But you're behind a big enough tree that they can't see you coming, right? Or you don't see them
Exactly.
coming, right? But you're peeking around a little bit, and then boom, right at the right time, show out, show them your nuts.
Yeah.
I don't. Should we condone that?
I mean, like if consensual flashing.
Oh, so like if I got butt naked and I just followed you around, like I knew that you were going on a walk.
Yeah.
And then so if I was like out in the wild, and like I could, do I have permission right now to do that?
Yeah.
'Cause that
I wouldn't
is
be
awesome.
against that.
Okay. You might have just figured something new out. I didn't even know I was into that.
Until right now. And why don't you do something new and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. If you haven't, get to it. It's right there. It takes 2 seconds.
It's important. Throw us a couple stars.
Helps
you know what
us
I mean?
a lot.
Throw out a comment.
Yeah.
It's weird. I know it seems like a chore, but like you're probably just sitting on a toilet right now.
Yeah, it takes
like,
2 seconds. It doesn't even matter what you write. Just write some absolutely nonsensical shit in the comments.
Yeah, write
Doesn't
something
matter.
horrendous about somebody that you love.
Yeah, do that.
That'd be pretty cool.
And give us a like, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and you can rate on Spotify now.
Really?
So,
Cool.
So drop us 5 stars on Spotify.
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to do that. That's where I listen.
Yeah, same. I also sometimes use Stitcher, which is a
Interesting.
podcast app.
Oh, I'll do Apple Podcasts every now and again, but then we don't need to get into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes my loyalties fade depending on which corporation I choose to hate when they're all the same piece of shit.
Well, wherever you're listening, just keep doing it. And follow us on Instagram.
Totally.
Like us on Facebook. Follow us on TikTok. Share us on your Instagram stories and tag us. And
Share us with your neighbor.
Share.
Go to your neighbor's door right now.
Oh,
And knock on your neighbor's door and be like, yo, have you heard about Show Me Yours podcast? Pretty dope.
Yeah, give them a flash.
Give them a flash.
Flash.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That'd be crazy.
That'd be cool. What if they fell in love?
That could happen too.
What if they
That'd be beautiful.
Because like what you'd think is that neighbor would open the door and be like, we don't live in a society where like I should even acknowledge my neighbor.
Yeah, be
But
like,
then-
what are you doing on my stoop?
Yeah, but then they look each other in the eyes and realize, wait a minute,
This is love.
and then they commence. They consummate that relationship right there on said stoop.
Yeah.
And then the other neighbor comes out and it's like, what are you guys doing? Having sex in public? And then they're like, yo,
Without
Show Me
me?
Yours podcast.
Yeah.
And then eventually there's
my
just
God.
a pile of people in the
Yeah.
streets.
So go over and tongue kiss your neighbor.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what it might lead to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. We support that.
We support that consensually, of course. But
We're
like
Jackie and
sometimes
John.
you can tell by the way they look at you.
You fucking heard it here first. That's right. I'm not gonna dogpile onto that, but fucking truer words have never been spoken.
But we have a great episode here for you today.
Fantastic.
We are joined by a hilarious comedian who is also a professional wrestler. This is a first for
That's
Show
the
Me
coolest
Yours.
thing that you can be,
Right?
Jackie. Like out of you could be like I don't know. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a fireman, and then I wanted to be like an airplane pilot, not like an airline pilot, but just like
you had your own airplane.
something like that.
Yeah.
And then, but ultimately, none of the only reason I wanted to be like an airplane pilot so then I could fly to Madison Square Garden and climb to the top of a 20-foot cage, Jackie.
Right, of course.
And frog splash.
Yes.
My fucking dominance onto another man. But this man actually does that.
Yeah.
20-year veteran of the game, and that's so fucking rad.
Yeah, and he's just a lovely person.
Probably
as well.
the nicest person on planet Earth.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah,
I would be
easily.
shocked if there were anyone nicer.
We would have to kill that man.
Yeah, because
Just
there's something up there.
It's what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yep, something.
There
but
can
this man
only be
definitely is
one.
not. There can only be one
Yeah,
weirdo hero.
and it has to be the weirdo hero, Ravenous
Randy
Randy
Myers. Hey, fellas. This episode of Show Me Yours is brought to you by our favorite producers in ball trimmers, Manscaped. The global leaders in below-the-waist grooming are leaving 2021 with a new product. Clean yourself into the new year with their ultra-premium body wash. Also, special offer alert, use the promo code Show Me Yours, all caps, all one word, for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. 4 million men already trust Manscaped, Jackie. It's time to join them.
Fuck yeah.
You know, what was your favorite part of 2021, Jax?
Probably starting this podcast.
That was pretty cool.
Getting this sweet sponsorship.
It was pretty sweet,
from,
Jackie.
From Manscaped.
That was very nice. That's very nice,
Yeah.
but it's all wrong. Best part about 2021, showing you my balls after we got the sponsorship from Manscaped.
Yeah, that too.
You know, it's 2022. It's on its way, right? And the last thing that you want to be is the guy with pubes getting in the way of making this year a complete mess. Jackie,
Yeah.
we're not about that,
No.
right? It's not 2021 anymore. You know what I mean? Well, it's going to be for a couple more weeks,
technically.
right? But we don't want to get lost in semantics, Jackie, because what it's not old school, right? We're not nicking balls anymore. We're not showing up to the party with little pieces of toilet paper, you know what I mean, with the little red dot in the middle, okay? Like your dad cut himself shaving. That's not what we're doing. You know what I mean? We're coming in so fresh and so clean.
Especially on the balls.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, balls, butt, and back, Jackie. Manscaped's got you.
Yeah.
Right? Manscaped's engineered the ultimate growing and body trimmer. By focusing intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience, their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, and it's even waterproof.
Wow.
You can do it in the shower, Jackie. I've done it here in the dark.
Yeah, you have.
There is a flashlight, and it's amazing. So let's talk about being clean. You know, feeling good, smelling good. Right, the new Ultra Premium Body Wash from Manscaped solves all three with the perfect addition to your daily grooming routine, but in the shower. You know, I shower every day, Jackie, right? And I hope that they do too. All right, this body wash is infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep your skin feeling clean, nice, and moisturized. With Manscaped, you'll be good. You'll be good to go, a brand new man, and ready to kick all those gross hairs and smells out with 2021.
Get out of here.
Right? Once again, insert the code, Show Me Yours, capitals, all one word, 20% off.
Huh.
Right? And free shipping.
Wow.
When you go to manscaped.com.
You don't say.
No, Jackie. Ring in the new year with Manscaped. Thank you, Manscaped.
Thank you. Welcome back to Show Me Yours podcast, everyone. We are joined by a very special guest today, local comedian, wrestling hero, the weirdo hero, Ravenous Randy Myers.
Hello, friends. Ow, that is me, darling. Just thank you so much for that tremendous intro.
Honestly, dude, our pleasure. Very excited to have you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
we're so
much. I don't know if
excited.
I've been on a couch this lovely in a long time.
Oh, well, you know what? We'd love to
Well,
have
you
you
don't
dirty
know.
it up, right?
Yeah.
That's no
Yeah,
problem.
you know, like this couch cushion might need a little work afterwards. But
Yeah.
I won't poppy it. You know, Seinfeld poppy it up. I won't pee it.
Oh, well, I mean, if
Yeah.
like I said, our future in this apartment is uncertain, so you just let yourself do whatever you want.
Yeah, let it
Wonderful.
fly. Yeah.
That's why I love you two so much. You're so welcoming.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing.
Fuck up the couch.
Piss all over it. Yeah.
We don't shame. That's actually, I have a friend of mine named Tyler, which this quote that'll always just stay in my head as I go out to his apartment for a little like housewarming thing. He was like, hey, make yourself at home, take a shit in my house, you know? And yeah, you know what I mean? There's always got taken aback by that at first, but I'm like, you know what? That's something that I want in me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to, yeah, it's Southern hospitality.
No, that really is. That really does like let you know that you're truly at home. You know what I mean? Not
Yeah.
that like fake at home. Like I want you to not put your feet up on the couch or anything
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to shit in my bowl.
Yeah.
I want you to enjoy my bidet.
Yeah, I want you to
right?
settle in, be comfy.
totally.
Yeah.
Isn't that the worst when you get to somebody's house and you almost feel like there's an eye on you? They're like, you know, I mean, I sat on this chair, but I feel like I shouldn't have sat on this chair. Nobody said anything about it,
Is
but
this
it's all
a no
weird
sit
now.
chair? This is a no sit chair.
Exactly. Yeah, they like they didn't say anything when you breathed. Like that inhale, that's not a good inhale.
Yeah, exactly. No, we don't have any of that. We'll roll out every carpet that we have for the icon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I appreciate
exactly.
That. Appreciate that, darling. So sweet.
Yeah, no, we're so excited to have you on. We've been wanting to have you on for a bit, and this is a very exciting album too.
It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite albums
This
of
is,
all time.
I mean, when I think this podcast here has been in the works now for months and months.
For
I mean,
months.
probably even before COVID or whatever.
We were
but when
talking
you-
about it, pre-COVID.
Yeah, and when you talk about Rancid and about Out Come the Wolves, like this album is not only like genre defining, I feel like, for like the early 90s, and then it was kind of like the blueprint for a lot of stuff that came after it.
Totally.
But it's like the reason that I have friends in America. It's the reason, you know what I mean? There's so many stories or whatever that I have behind this thing. In 2015, I was at Punk Rock Bowling in Las Vegas, and Rancid headlines one of the nights and just plays this album from front to back. Ugh. And it was disgusting. It was almost like you want to mosh, but there's so many people, so many bodies that you're just kind of just like moving with the wave of them and stuff like that. It was crazy. And then I lost all my friends, and I was walking back to the Golden Nugget Hotel, and I found a kid with a rainbow mohawk that was just like in the ditch, and I'm like, this kid needs my help. So I had like a bottle of water on me, and I handed it to him, and I'm like, hey man, you all right? So he just takes a sip of the water, and I'm just kind of bullshitting with him, making sure that he's gonna like, you know, make it back to wherever he's going. And then a group of his friends come around the corner, and then they were like, whoa, Canadian guy helping out our friend, like that's awesome, you know, like, do you like drugs? And,
I just gave him water full of ecstasy.
That was all GHB.
I think once they saw him just sipping a water bottle, at first they was like, you know, looking at me like, hey pal, what are you doing? But since then, like I've made some friendships like through that group that I still hold today. I've been down to San Francisco. I've gone to the band and toured with them. We went to Olympia one time to play a show with these guys and stuff. So there's so many. This album just keeps kind of cycling back through, and like feeding my life or whatever. So anytime we have the opportunity to talk to the Weirdo Hero and about Rancid, please.
Yeah,
go hand in hand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like where I want to know like where you found this one.
Okay, so this like Rancid was my first. Was like you said, like they're in I don't know, they're their first introduction.
Sure,
I don't know. I can
introduction
to punk rock, but I remember seeing them on like the Wedge on Much Music back in the day, and I think it was like this like their video for. Maybe it was a Time Bomb video, but it was like something, and they were like just so elaborately punk rock. Do you know what I mean? Like the giant mohawks and stuff like that, and they were like looking like such hellions, and I was so drawn to it and so scared that I was drawn to it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh no, like I could see my future ahead of me. I was like 11 years old or something like that, and I'm like, that's like I was so like I said, like I felt like this is who I am, but I was like, I don't know if that's who I want to be. You know what I mean?
Well, it was interesting. Like what year is that? Because at that point too, for me, there was like Green Day and Blink-182 was obviously like was the introduction, I think, for like my journey into punk rock. But that's at like 10 years old. So then you have to like there was like skate punk or street punk. There was so many kind of like umbrellas of it or whatever. But yeah, there was something about Rancid that was like there's something about these songs. Like it's not all just about like girls and your parents and stuff like that. They're talking about some real shit here that I like, gravitated towards.
For sure. It's like like I remember it was being played on the radio too, and that was the thing. Like there wasn't a lot of punk that was like kind of making that cross to the radio to like mainstream play or whatever. And I mean it was still on like the like edgier punk rock station or whatever, but like I could hear it in the car with my mom and stuff like that. And I remember like Time Bomb was the first song I ever called into the radio station to have played.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I don't even know whether people.
Yeah, but it like it absolutely could be on like I mean it's funny like classic rock radio as you get older is like when you were a kid it's like you know the best of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. For sure. Now it's the best of the 70s, 80s, 90s or whatever, right? So. The Time Bomb, and not the only hit on this album. There's a lot of like ska riffs or whatever that are like super accessible. Yeah, you know what I mean. For like for as hard as like Maxwell Murder comes in right at track one, it like kicks the shit out of you.
So fast.
Then but there's also especially Time Bomb. I mean that's something that like you and your mom could totally groove to, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There's so much great stuff on there. Like Journey to the End of the East Bay is my absolute favorite song of all time. I remember the first Rancid concert I ever went to. I said if they were playing 2 nights in a row, and I'm like, I've got to play that song. Yeah, and I'm like, if they play Journey to the End of the East Bay, I'm good, and that's all I need.
Starts off with like the greatest bass riff ever, you know, when it comes in.
Exactly.
Doom, 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 doom,
that was how they started the show. So I just like instantly was like so in love and so happy and like content. So everything from there on was like a bonus.
Totally. My God, there's something about like the opening of a show when you're sitting there thinking like, well, as long as I get this one song and then anything is good, right? And then you're like the floodgates have fucking broken. There's for a while like Rancid was touring, I think for like 2 or 3 shows or whatever. I've seen them just open with radio. Oh yeah, and like that is like when Tim comes out there and he's like, here it is, here I am, turn it up fucking loud. You're like,
I know it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
It's kind of cool too that you can see like the same faces in the crowd now too, like just being like Vancouver's kind of relatively small, especially like the community or whatever, so it's kind of interesting to like bump into people that you'd only see at like a
100% people that you only know because you put your arm around them in a drunken haze and sung lyrics like that you're just so kin to both your hearts, you know, like almost gospel-y to each other.
There's a kid and I don't know his name, but I know that he lives in Maple Ridge, and but he's got "Life Won't Wait" tattooed on his arm, and so do I. That was a pretty big moment. Like every time I see him, it's always just that. It's not like a nod of acceptance. Like I'm hugging this guy.
Totally, 100%. Yeah. That guy falls in the pit. I'm picking him up.
100%. Absolutely. I mean, that goes for anybody, but I'm picking him up fast.
Exactly. Like, I've got my eye kind of cornered on him all night just to make sure he's.
Yeah. You keep watch over him.
Oh, dude, well, the kid from Maple Ridge, like when he gets down to the Commodore for like the one night a year, like he's coming, and you could, you know, when you're at the bar and you're like, oh, this, like you can always see the guy that's gonna get it. You're like, oh, I think that's the guy that's gonna get it tonight.
Totally.
I just saw the way you bump into that guy for the 5th time. You're like, oh fuck, here we go. We gotta keep an eye on this kid.
Yeah, we drank a little too much for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God,
It's always like that's I don't know. It's one of those things that you can't, like, for comedy. It's always like it's always weird. But like I understand the pregame, but sometimes where it's just like it's too excessive. Yep. Like I was on I was on my way into this festival in San Bernardino, like right outside of LA, and it was so fucking hot that like we're peaking like 100 before the gates are even open. And this kid that I was there with was just like going nuts on like a bottle of like Southern Comfort or like Wild Turkey or something like that. And he passed out in the line before we even got to the show. I was just like, come on, man. Like, no, for sure. No, for me, for like, they were all from the States or whatever. So this guy only maybe drove like 6 hours, but I took a plane and then drove 6 hours to get here. So like, I'm at least getting in the game.
Oh, yeah.
I think, because we're like being Canadian, that not that many shows come around, you know, or we have to go super far to go to the shows, that I think we make sure that like we get totally hammered at the show rather than missing the show by getting drunk beforehand.
Wait till you're in the doors.
Exactly.
Then go wild.
Well, because I mean, there's nothing worse. Like I've been to like so many events where, like we said, the kid that's gonna get it, you know what I mean? He's already just like wild in the lineup, and they just won't even let him in or something like that, or he fucks up, like, you know, just and you see it, and you're just like, oh, okay, well, I fucked up, but I've never been like that guy, which I'm excited about.
Like kicked out of the show.
I mean, I've been asked to leave many a bar, but rarely when the band is playing.
No. I've gotten like the I don't want to see you crowd surfing anymore. And
totally.
Like we really don't want to see you crowd surfing anymore. But I've never been.
I'm not going to tell you any more times.
This is the last time.
And you're like, yeah, no, I mean, I'm sorry that was the last time, but like I just realized you were a little slow on the right side. So if I fake left and go, like,
exactly,
I'm getting around you every time.
You didn't say anything about getting on the stage and then jumping off the stage. So.
Yeah.
That's really funny for when a venue doesn't expect the band that they book. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a place. Is it Thunderbird Stadium, the UBC hockey arena? They have there's a
sports.
Oh well, there's an arena out there, and they rarely put on shows. But Dropkick Murphys and Rancid did like the Boston to Berkeley tour a few years ago, and I mean I've seen those bands like all over town, and that was like weird booking, like UBC, interesting. Okay, so we'll go all the way out there, and we get there, and it's this hockey arena, and you can tell that these are like UBC students that don't like that are just kind of like, I don't know if they're volunteer, they just work at this place. They're not expecting what's about to happen here. And I'm walking in and I'm like, this is the security staff, and I just look at my pops and I'm like we've been going to like Rancid shows for like a decade or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, these poor kids.
For sure.
This is gonna be fucking nuts, because they basically had like the seating kind of area like on the floor. Before there was a band from the UK called The Selector that was on first. So it was just kind of like dancing ska grooves and stuff like that. And all those chairs were the fuck out of there. And everybody that was in the bleachers has now just come to the floor or whatever. So it's complete chaos and nobody knows where anybody's supposed to be. And I'm like, fuck, that took 15 minutes.
UBC stuff is like, oh no.
I bet, I bet it probably got to the point where like if I'm one of those kids, like I'm just like I'd take my shirt off and just like go into the crowd or whatever and just like dance. Exactly. Like, fuck this. Like I don't know if this is gonna be worth, you know, everything that's gonna be, because like the band, I mean, if it's like more aggressive music, I think the thing about like fast music or hard music or whatever, it'll bring like a certain kind of people or whatever. But like there was nobody there. I mean, maybe a Dropkick Murphy show, you'll get a fucking asshole or whatever. It'll happen. But I mean, for the most part, everybody was just so excited to be there, and we're like, we're not going to dance in the stadium. We're going to dance together on the floor or whatever, right? So it was kind of just a peaceful like, hi, how are you? We're just hopping the boards.
Exactly what I love about that. Like that's what's like the epitome of like what punk rock to me.
Totally.
Is like that community thing where it's not like it's wild and it looks like dangerous from the outside, but it's so not dangerous and it's so loving and it's so like I don't know, it always feels like church to me when I'm in like that pit, you know what I mean? Like for lack of a better term, like just that connection with the person I don't know that's beside me. You know what I mean? But like I'd still like we're all kind of a family at that point,
I think,
right?
I used to get like really nervous, especially moving down to the city, and even now, like I have like friends in that community because I'm from going to shows and stuff, but I don't like actually like hang out in like the like a music community or a punk rock community or whatever. So it's a lot of times you go to shows alone or. And it's funny when you're younger because you're kind of going like, oh, I don't really know how to like meet people or something. But then once you kind of get over that and you're like, hey, just go up to somebody and be like, hey, I'm Jonny, how's it going? And you're like, fuck, I'm like really good at making friends because wait a minute, you guys like this band too? You know what I mean, right? Like once you have that and you can kind of kick the door in or whatever, like it's funny because there's a lot of it. Especially with like elitist almost like about like the music scenes and stuff like that. But like when a lot of that like goes away, you stop caring about like what t-shirt you wore to the show or you know what I mean, or like that, like you know, our people are like punker than thou or whatever, that'll like look down on you for whatever, right? Because now I think everybody's a little bit older and now you're seeing like, you know, Green Day patches on a Black Flag jacket or stuff like that. You're kind of going like, okay, everybody's doing their thing, right? Like once you can kind of you know, let that stuff slip by, you know, just kind of like opens up for some of the like the fucking best nights of my life.
Exactly. And just like that like it doesn't need to be this or that. It's not defined by one thing or another or a certain sound or a certain look or whatever. It's kind of just based on like it's all art and it's about expression.
Yeah, people just being like true to themselves.
Totally.
And, like, liking what they like.
Yeah, and like the release too. I think like the adrenaline and like the you know, you like it. It's funny because you could be opinionated about music because you like it a certain way, right? There's this thing in my head about like the music that I love, I like to keep it the same, right? As soon as like you kind of complain that it's getting stale, but then when you see the new kids come and do it a little bit differently, you're like, well, I don't know about that. You know what I mean, right? So you can kind of watch it evolve into a thing that I was listening to somebody say that like the new punk now is like these kids like rapping or whatever with like face tattoos and dyed hair and stuff like that or whatever, and they're taking it just totally in a different direction. It might not sonically sound, you know what I mean, the same way, but if you look at like, you know, the DIY ethics that they're doing, they're putting on their own shows and figuring out their own like kind of way through it or whatever. There's nothing that's not punk rock about that.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no rules, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily, it's not as even as strict as punk rock was. Totally. It's not all leather jackets. It's not all a certain sound. It doesn't mean to be the same instruments or whatever. It can be whatever way you can do it, right? Which the DIY, I think, is the heart of that, like punk rock or like just art in general. You know, like everything, like whether it be the stand-up community or wrestling or whatever, it's all has to start from that kind of like grassroots, ground up.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
right?
And like not like waiting for someone to like give you like permission to do something, just like doing it yourself, even though like it's gonna take a lot longer. But
totally, that's the reason we're doing this fucking show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it feels like there's been a resurgence in that kind of. I don't know whether it's been like through like the lockdown and stuff like that, and through like the use of the internet and stuff like that. We've been able to like people kind of realizing more dreams and stuff like that and taking more stabs in the dark, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, like as everything gets like more accessible, you realize like it's a big world, but it's kind of not, it's small, right? Like everybody has, there's a lane for you if you can kind of like, you know, chisel your own thing out of it. And like you said, nobody's going to give it to you, right? So at that point, why not? You know what I mean? I'm like set up a ring in a backyard, but I mean, you're well above that though. Like as far as, I mean, it's a weird segue, but you have no idea my love for punk rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
And to sit on the couch with the fucking, with the punk rock warlord.
Yeah. I'm like so interested, like how you started like getting into wrestling and like that whole like journey to like where you are now.
Yeah. I was like always like a theatrical kid. So like yeah, right. I know it's weird, huh? And so like that was always kind of my like path and like kind of doing drama classes and like helping out, like being volunteering at theater productions and stuff like that. And then like I did drama all through school, and then got to like grade 12, and then was in like this relationship and had my first like heartbreak with this woman. And then she was in the drama class, and then my like angsty teenage energy like needed somewhere to go, right? So then I started like taking like they started teaching us pratfalls in drama class, and then I was like, oh, these look terrible, because I was into wrestling, right? So I was like, these falls look so phony baloney, and I have so much angst, and I'm emo as all fuck, and I want to show people how much pain I'm in, you know, so I want to fall down for real. So then every chance I got, I fell down as hard as I possibly could. And the teacher just got like, they were on my ass all the time. If I got hurt, they're going to like lose their teacher's license or whatever. Things, you know,
Get ready, this is
I'm
Hamlet.
not going to tell you again. No more falling.
You had to go through the table. Like, you had to go through the table. This is
so many
Where
broken
did you
props.
get that chair?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I would find that stuff all over, and I would like use the props and stuff like that. And then so eventually I got like kicked out of the class, and then I went home and like told my mom I got kicked out of drama class, and she's like, well, like, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, well, like, I don't know, I guess wrestling, you know. And then there was at that time Stampede Wrestling, which is like, I'm from Calgary, so has a history with wrestling.
Absolutely, like the Bret Hart, like the entire Hart family. Is that the whole thing?
Yeah, exactly. The Hart Family Dungeon and all that. And Stampede Wrestling was like their promotion that they started, right? So it had a resurgence in like 1999, and I had started going to like those live indie shows, and then they had like they were filmed and then put on TV filmed the week before and then aired the next week.
So like on like a local, like a cable access kind of thing. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
right
so
on.
It was super cool, and you could see like us in the front row, and I'd be making a big ass of myself, and that was the first time.
You got signs and shit out
Oh,
there.
100%. I remember one time I got in trouble because I put like a hot dog in a condom, and I was like just waving it around above my head, like whatever I could do to get attention. Right? Like it was. Yeah. They had the thing where they give out.
That one didn't really pop off. You know what I mean? You're watching. You can watch AEW tonight. You're not seeing nobody doing that gimmick, right?
I was ahead of my time. You know.
Show I know what we're bringing.
It's safety, you know. It's promoting safe sex.
100%.
So they were like, these shows were like so cool, and I had gone to punk rock shows when I was young, like the local indie shows or whatever, and loved that. And
well, yeah. So
that.
I mean, but like 90s Calgary, that's Chicks Dig It, and like there's a lot of cool shit going on in there.
And stuff like that. Yeah, there was some
for sure.
great stuff
Belvedere,
going
am I
on.
right?
Yeah, totally.
Fuck yeah, nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I remember going to like, it was like an easy transition from going to like the like multicultural center to watch, you know, punk rock shows to the multicultural center to watch a wrestling show.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like put a lot of the same energy, but not necessarily the same people.
Totally.
So then they would have commercials in between when they would air the wrestling show on Saturday, and it would say like, oh, if you want to become a professional wrestler, come down here. And there was like a school that was for kids. It was the only professional wrestling school for kids in the world at the time, actually. So
no shit.
And because I was 17, I wasn't able to go to the dungeon quite yet.
Oh, okay.
So then I went to Ted Hart's Pro Wrestling School for Kids, and then I started training there. And then within like a year, there was like a TV deal that was gonna happen. So we got like signed to this weird like MTV children's wrestling promotion. It was called like Mat Rats.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was very like, we had like 4 shows. It had like, but it was with like Eric Bischoff and a bunch of the big names from ECW and stuff like that, because it was like in between. It was in that in between zone where ECW had just gone under, WCW had just gone under, a little bit like inside baseball here.
Totally.
But
No, yeah.
So there was like all these kind of this talent that was like kind of executive producer style talent that was available, right? So they kind of like came in. MTV was hot still at the time, still airing the Odd music video. This is before Jersey Shore. So
but like the start of the transition.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So they were looking for something like a reality show based around youth wrestling, right? And so they started this show, and then all of a sudden this kids wrestling camp became like basically the farm.
How were you like when you're watching like if you go back and watch those tapes? I mean, were you just like young, terrible? Like did you already have like a gimmick kind of figured out?
Oh, I was brutal.
What was your
I
mean, I want to even know like what as like a 17-year-old kid just getting into a wrestling ring, like immediately looking around being like, I'm gonna fucking do some backflips, right? But I'm not that guy.
No, exactly. Exactly. I'm not that guy.
I'd be more of a brawler, I feel like. No,
me too, right? Like, so I went in there with a very theater-based thing, but it was very much because it was like such a history of professional wrestling in Calgary, like, and this was the Hart family's like 3rd generation. They had wrestling in their blood. They were so good. They were able to backflip out of the womb.
No shit.
You know what I mean? And I was this theater kid who had never done anything athletic my entire life. I had like gone out of my way to not even do gym class. I got it so I could write out like do essays on on sports instead of doing gym class because I hated it. I despised gym class.
You were jacked. That's hilarious to think about that.
Totally, right? Like, I despised it though. Like the idea of like competitiveness always drove me nuts, right? So finding wrestling where it's like not competitive, it's we're working together. It's I don't care if I win or lose. It's all about the storytelling.
Yeah.
So finding that really was a fit. So then when I got into the wrestling ring for the first time and all these kids were doing this incredible athletic maneuvers, I was like, whoa, fuck. Like, I'm like, I can't do any of this stuff. So it took me forever to like learn anything. But what they needed was they needed a body to like take these moves.
Right.
So I could be the person who took the moves. So that was really where like I got like my like broke my teeth in being the person, like being the bump dummy.
Yeah.
Right.
And then from there I got good at taking the bumps. And then when the Mat Rats kind of folded, Stampede Wrestling still needed people. I was by that point I was 18, so I could go to the dungeon, and I got an invite to go to the dungeon, and there they continued to use me as their bump dummy for like the next like 4 years until the
like everything that I've seen about that is just like basically you just go down there and Old Man Hart would just beat the shit out of you.
Basically,
was that
he was like 88 by the time I got there, so he wasn't able to do too many. I just got the only submission I got was a stiff handshake where he would like put his thumb in this pressure point on your hand. Right? So
that's some old grandpa shit right there.
Totally, right? It was still badass.
Totally,
but it was like the next generation that was kind of beating me up or whatever. Right. So they needed they were all future stars, and they were like, we're not going to beat each other up. You know what I mean? We need somebody to kind of like rough up or whatever, but they were always safe.
Then once you get in there and you kind of come to your own and stuff like that, like, I mean, you've been doing this now for how long?
20 years.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah, 20 years.
That is insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look like you're good. Like, is any of that, like, it doesn't look like, you know, you don't look like it's been like kicking the shit out of you either. Like, you've probably had to learn to.
Totally, like, and I've had like my times where I thought it was like cool to be extra violent or whatever, like when we're all young and like want to be extra over the top and extreme with our art and stuff like that, and then kind of learned how to like where my lane is.
You stop giving them color.
Well, I guess I realized like that if you look at the top stars in almost anything, it's like they kind of find exactly what they are and then sell that. Right?
Yeah,
like Stone Cold's drinking a beer. The Rock is raising an eyebrow. Yeah. Hulk Hogan was ripping his shirt. Like these things are so minimal if you really like look at the grand scheme of things. What you're paying to see isn't them get beat up. You're paying to see them do this like little like catchphrasey thing or whatever.
Like mannerisms.
Totally. Like you're going to see them play your favorite song.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go to see a band play all new material.
Yeah.
You want to hear your favorite song. It's the same
as much
thing.
as you support that band and like as much as you love that band and you want to see them evolve and stuff like that, you better fucking play radio.
Exactly. And then when they do, you're like, then when they play Journey to the End of the East Bay, you're happy. Whatever else happens that night is gold. If Stone Cold drinks his beer, you're
absolutely.
So now I just like have like my little wave. I have like little kind of mannerisms and little tricks that I pull in the ring that kind of are still my act, but they're not necessarily as action based.
Cheers to the new year, ladies. We're so excited to be ringing in the new year with our sponsor, Manscaped, the producer of the only ball trimmer I trust to treat my man well, is leaving 2021 with a new product to keep him clean. Introducing their brand new ultra premium body wash. And we have a special offer as our New Year's present to you, Flashers.
Yeah, we do.
You can get 20% off and free shipping when you use the code SHOWMEYOURS, all caps, all one word, at manscaped.com. Johnny, what was the highlight of 2021 for you?
Well, Jackie, there's a lot. There's a lot that was great about this year. There's a lot that sucked. But honestly, I'm not going to lie. It's kind of that my balls are never going to smell gross again.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of products that have been coming in that I've been, maybe just thinking that soap was enough.
Right.
For a long time. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a new man.
Yeah. Similarly, that was also the highlight for me. And I'm looking forward to another year of your fresh balls.
Jackie, you got him. You got him.
The new year doesn't always have to mean a new man, but it does mean it's time to get him a new ball trimmer just in time for 2022. Get him the best trimmer in men's grooming with the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 so we can ring in the new year the right way.
Hell yeah.
Manscaped created the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on creating a comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. And we love that. We don't want grooming accidents.
Jackie, I'm not afraid to put that thing anywhere.
Yeah, it's true.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. And say goodbye to beard hair around the sink because this trimmer is waterproof. So time to get him to shave in the shower.
Keep it clean, boys. Keep it clean.
And while he's in there, make sure he has the new ultra premium body wash from Manscaped to leave him feeling and smelling good. Their body wash is the perfect addition to his self-care routine, and it's also infused with aloe vera and sea salt to keep skin feeling nice, clean, and moisturized. The perfect way to leave him feeling confident once he gets out of the shower is with the Manscaped Refined Cologne. It leaves him smelling amazing and features their same signature scent that's in all Manscaped formulas, the perfect complement to his self-care collection. With Manscaped, he'll look and smell like a new man. Use code SHOWMEYOURS for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Update his confidence with the right tools and perfect scents this new year with Manscaped. Again, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code SHOWMEYOURS, all one word, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code SHOWMEYOURS. Upgrade his 2022 self-care routine with Manscaped. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
You know, but it's interesting because, like wrestling can kind of have that like hyper macho, you know, kind of like no room for what you do in there. You're almost antagonistic to a crowd at a point that you're just like playing with their own homophobia and stuff like that, which is so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It gives me so much room. So like, growing up in Calgary was like, and being like, not like a sexually normal or whatever, sexually straight, you know what I mean?
Right.
Was always kind of like, it's redneck there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not a great place to prance around.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
for sure. So even
still very much so.
Totally.
right.
Yeah.
So long before I had like that was out in the ring as I, you know,
Sure.
I was like, people were able to see this, you know what I mean? Like that bully kind of gaydar that people could turn on, they
Yeah.
would see it through me, and that was what they'd heckle me about.
Oh, yeah.
In the ring, whether it be even in high school, all the way up, even
Sure.
before I knew what was going on with my own sexuality, they knew somehow. Like, they could sniff it out, right?
There's something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's because they thought I was cute. I know it.
Exactly. They wish you were a farmhand. You know what I mean? Right?
100%. So then the idea of playing a feminine in the ring was like not. It was been just. I would automatically been a heel. I would automatically been like had forced into stereotypes and done work that I didn't want to do.
Totally.
Right.
Well,
like,
I mean, Goldust, he is from like a wrestling family of,
Totally.
you know what I mean? And then kind
Dynasty,
of, and taking that gimmick, I mean, it's got to be almost like detrimental unless that's who you are, right?
Totally.
I think like it seems like he was almost like, like they made him out to be like a weirdo or a villain and stuff like that, and kind of especially when you have like, you know, your ringside announcers going like, what the hell is this?
Exactly.
Has anybody else really done that to that level? Like, I mean, really kind of explored like femininity in a ring like that?
There has been off and on stuff that's been like, there's been some interesting work that's been done. Most of it has been like mocking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what it
Unfortunately.
seems like,
But there has been there's been stuff that's kind of stuck through over the years, you know what I mean? That you're like, wait a second, if you look at this, I think they wrote it as a homophobic angle, but then if you actually look at the work, you're like, it's not actually, it actually is progressing things.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was a great angle with Santino. I don't know if you remember him. He was like a comedy wrestler, basically.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And then for a short time, he came in as his twin sister Santina, and then he was doing like he was in drag the whole time.
Right,
But it was like there was never any negative punchline on it. He was just in drag, and then he was just Santina. When he was in drag, he was Santina. He represented Santina, and they addressed him as such or them as such. Like, wait a second, I think they were trying to make a joke here, but it didn't.
Accidentally progressive.
Exactly, accidentally progressive, which is what wrestling does.
Hey man, we'll take a win any way we can get it,
That-
right?
exactly. So then kind of like being more out there with my own sexuality kind of when I came to the West Coast, and then doing more stuff in Seattle and stuff like that, trying to be the person who's not the trying to be the weirdo hero, trying to be the person who you expect to maybe be a heel by the way they present or the way they look or something like that, and by stereotypes and gender or like gender norms or like society norms, then I'm not that. You know what I mean? And I feel that gives it a place for people who are like me to be like, oh, I'm not always the bad person.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, to vilify somebody for being themselves or whatever, especially in an industry that in itself is 100% theatrical, you know what I mean?
And so hyper gay. Like,
so ridiculous.
So, people are like, oh, look at this gay one. And you're like,
very charged.
Like a second. I'm going to oil up these biceps before I call this guy a homo. Like, I mean, just like, guys, hey, can you get my back, Greg? Look at these queers over here.
100%. I've seen that. I've seen that so many times.
Especially with like the long flowing hair and everything.
100%. Yeah. Like you said, the baby oil, the small tights. You have the perfect tan. Yeah, exactly. Like, what are we doing? Don't you dare use that picture of me on that poster. Don't you dare use that picture of me.
Oh, I imagine there's got to be like the Madonnas and the divas back there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
so much about appearances.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. I don't think you're gonna throw anybody under the bus and stuff. But do you have anything like or any stories like that you could just kind of shake your head at? You know what I mean? At what point does a wrestler kind of are they able to kind of demand these things, or at what point is like a prima donna just kind of asked to get the fuck out of here?
Oh, that's a good question. Have I ever been asked to get the fuck out of here? I honestly, unfortunately, I'll be honest. I think I would have been a prima donna. At times,
shit,
for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. Like I have.
I mean, 20 years is a long road. I'm sure you've been a lot of different things. I mean, throughout
exactly. I've been a prima donna. I've been Madonna. I've been everything in between. Exactly. But like I've had like after like some successes in the business or whatever, you get a bit of big head. You know what I mean? And you do get those things like why am I not on the poster, or why am I in the main event and not central on the poster? You know what I mean? And you have to have that. Like, it's important to have people around to like burst your bubble, and to tell you, be like, you know, you're lucky for what you have. And be grateful and stuff. Like, just shut up.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because I think we can all get that way if we have too much like air pumped into our heads.
I think you see that in comedy even.
Big,
like,
sure.
Well, why is his face bigger than my face on the poster?
Totally, right?
We get that
Who
shit.
made that decision?
Oh yeah. I'll get that. Like even with just spots, like it's always funny where you're going, shit, like I'm putting in all the work, I'm doing all this stuff, and I want to try this new material, blah blah blah. Why the fuck aren't I on this show? And then you look around, you're like, wait a minute, there's only X amount of shows, and read whose name. Like, there's a lot of comics that have been doing like that, you know, that arguably probably are more deserving of that spot. They're not on that fucking poster either.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's tough, but once you were kind of able to step back and look and go, oh, my shit does stink. Like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, we could just.
That's why it's important to not ever get too good, I figure, because that way I'm always like, look at me, I suck. And I can honestly look at that, whoa, that wasn't so great. So keeps my head small.
You keep that, you keep the expectations,
exactly,
minimum.
A little bit low.
Definitely a little bit low.
And so then when did like comedy come into all of this?
Okay, so like it was like when I mentioned the story earlier about like getting kicked out of drama class. I did two things. I wanted to go to wrestling school, but I also wanted to go to improv school.
Right. Because
there was like a Loose Moose Theater Company, which was like a big improv school within Calgary. And I'm like, so those were my two interests. And I went to the improv school, and everyone was like 35 plus, and I was fairly decent at it. Like I got like a chuckle or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I could kind of do this. And then I went to the wrestling school, and everyone was 15 doing backflips, and I'm like, woof. So, and then I was like, okay, so I have to do this in an order. I have to do like wrestling I could do first. Like it's not like you could do 15 years as a comedian and then go into wrestling, right?
Totally.
So I'm like, I need to do like get athletic while I'm young, still have a chance. And then so I was like, okay, I'll do this first, and then I'll get into doing some sort of like comedy or improv or whatever. So then I was like, I planned like I'm gonna do this until I'm 25 or years old or whatever, and then I'm gonna get, if nothing's happened, if I'm not in WWE by then, I'm gonna go and then I'm like, okay, by the time I'm 30 or whatever. And
that's the funny thing about being young and kind of putting those like number markers on your success or like on your goals and stuff like that is really hard, because I mean, hey, then you have to give yourself a year for this or what. I mean, fucking COVID took 18 months. This, you know what I mean, right?
And then you like get to that age and you're like, I was crazy to think that. It's just not realistic.
At 31, I'm realizing I have a lot more work to do.
Yeah, totally. Or you're just like, I just want more bookings or whatever.
Totally.
You're having fun doing what you're doing. You're
Of
like,
course.
I don't want to give this up now, or like you're starting to see some momentum. You don't know where your career is going to be.
Well,
right?
absolutely, especially in a thing like wrestling, it seems to be pretty like transient as well. I mean, if you're like I'm sure there's like you kind of come from like a legendary area, but I mean to get work, like have you like where's the farthest places that you know that you've traveled just to get hit in the face with a chair?
Yeah, no. So I guess the farthest place I've been to England and I've been to Hawaii for shows.
Wild.
Yeah.
Nice.
So like both of those were pretty ridiculously far.
Yeah,
to get hit with the
absolutely.
chair or to have someone's butt shoved in your face or whatever. But yeah, like you said, it is all over the place. Like it's not, especially Canada's hard, right? Like as we know, like it's not. There's not a huge population, you know what I mean? So like in the States, there's so many different wrestling promotions and they can do well because there's like little, like you could have a hardcore promotion, a comedy promotion, an all women's promotion,
No shit,
and all non-binary promotion
Yeah.
in cities, and they can all do well.
Do you kind of have like a lifespan in that territory for a time too? Because then can you kind of like bounce around and go from here to there and still like, you know, kind of have like longevity as a career?
Totally.
Because I mean in Canada it seems like shit. Like you only have like 6 markets or something like
Totally,
that.
yeah. It's pretty hard, especially with markets that you don't necessarily want to go. Like there's still going back to Alberta with my act as it is now is still kind of sketchy to me.
Totally.
You
I
know
couldn't
what I
imagine.
mean?
Like you got some balls to get in there and do that shit anywhere. But I mean,
Yeah.
to going into the lion's den.
Yeah, right. Which kind of feels like maybe something I should do at some
Absolutely.
point.
It's
Yeah.
pushing and
Also-
challenging, like moving the ball forward.
Totally.
Exactly. But then also, I've also done my fair share of shows in small town Alberta and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I've done years and years of that. So you want to
Right.
continuously move your career forward,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
But yeah, there are pockets. Like I did 10 years in Alberta. Then I came out here to do stuff here. Did a lot of stuff in BC and then kind of started doing stuff in Seattle mostly and stuff like that in the States. And it was kind of like Oregon and stuff like that.
Oh,
kind
okay.
of, and some stuff in California.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah. I've been to the East Bay. I've sung "Journey to the End of the East Bay" into the East Bay,
Dude,
which I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to do. It's like no stairway in a Wayne's World
Yeah,
story.
totally.
You know what I mean? Like,
man, I like. There's something about that you dream about that moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Olympia, Washington, another fantastic song on this. When you get to Olympia and you start hanging out with like punks there, they will tell you immediately that that song is about Seattle. They have there's no 52nd and Broadway in Olympia. There's no, the Fun House is a very popular venue in Seattle.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, it's just like Back to Olympia sounds better than Back to Seattle, I guess. Or whatever.
No, for sure.
So we were doing karaoke at this one of the girls that put the show on kind of invited everybody back to like this punk house, and we were all just like flopping there, a bunch of bands that were kind of on tour and stuff. And first going for Juicy by Biggie.
Okay,
They
yeah.
were like, this is a nice kid, but he knows too many of these words. Let's
See where this goes. Yeah.
you say neighbor instead.
Very sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, but then getting into Olympia, I sung it at this house party, and I didn't realize that song wasn't about Olympia. So everybody's like, "Fuck this guy!"
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I did a duet with my buddy Guy, and when we were done, like, where'd everybody go?
I would expect Big Paw.
Cleared out the cleared out the
Right.
living room. Yeah, Road Warrior shit, but that just wasn't the case. But like the East Bay is one of the like that it always does kind of like feel like a Mecca thing, especially like meeting those all those buddies there. Kind of they're from that neighborhood, so when I get there, it's like taking the Daly City train, or you know what I mean, like going to these like little like kind of landmarks or whatever that you just hear about and stuff. Where like even the Tenderloin stepping over a piece of human shit is like this is a rite of passage. For
Exactly,
something
100%,
you've
100%,
been listening to since you're like 12 years old or whatever.
Yeah, things that you've idolized that are just disgusting and
Yeah.
filthy, that, which I think we all do. We romanticize these things,
Oh,
right?
100%.
Totally.
Yeah, it's funny. I got to last time that I went to San Francisco, I landed at like midnight or something. Just took like a terrible flight, and all my buddies were partying in that neighborhood. My buddy works at a bar down there, and I get off the train in like when you say like one of the worst neighborhoods in America, it's like it's like multiple square blocks of like the downtown east side. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going up and over, and I got like I'm like dragging behind my little airplane luggage, and I'm like, I am just asking for it, right?
I did the same thing. I took like a 57-hour Greyhound bus down to do a Pride show down at a place called Hood Slam, which is like right in the heart of like Oakland. And I was like wandering around with like my merch bag and stuff like that. Like, just like asking for it so much that I had to look like I was a plant or something.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a narc.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
There's
so over
no.
the top.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, nice try,
I really
officer.
want to fuck with this guy, but I feel like I shouldn't.
Totally. Yeah. Like he's filming a movie or
Yeah.
something.
Definitely. Well, like Oakland is one of those fucking cities. Like, I went there one time to see like Leftover Crack did. Well, they came back and did like Choking Victim. I think they did like one show in New York, and then like the internet like exploded. So they're like, okay, so we'll do like one in we'll do one in Oakland and like one in here. You know what I mean? Like in like 5 different cities or whatever. So my buddy's being from San Francisco. Like it's like a $20 ticket. It was packed out this fucking place. Super like they did it right. And it's just right over the bridge in Oakland. And when we got there, I'm looking around that neighborhood and I'm going like, if we weren't here for this show, like I bet 20 minutes before and after this thing, if you're fucking hanging out here, like you're not, we're not, like, no one fucking be here. It was, it's interesting and it's weird to romanticize that kind of stuff.
Definitely, yeah.
Like
There's
danger.
something wrong with us, I think.
I think so.
Actually, yeah.
Like I've never been to Mexico. I've never seen like a beautiful like tropical sunset and shit like that. But like, I don't know. I can tell you how to stay alive in a bad neighborhood.
Exactly, but that's what counts. You know what I mean? And I think if you ever do go to Mexico to see that beautiful sunset, knowing how to stay alive in a shady neighborhood will come in handy.
Hopefully, I really hope that's gonna be funny. Like, you get like to Sinaloa and they're like, "This ain't Oakland, motherfucker." I don't know. I'm just a fan. I've just been romanticizing your work for so long.
Exactly.
I would much rather just give you money and we can continue a business kind of deal. Like if we could establish that relationship rather than just like a beheading, then I would be
exactly.
Then that'd be perfect.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
That's how I'm getting out of
Or
there.
just a little bit off the top.
Just
you know?
a little.
Just like I can lose like the top.
High and tight. Could you imagine
High
it's just
and
coming
tight.
back scalped or something? That'd be wild.
I know it looks bad,
Yeah,
but he was going to
but-
take the whole head.
It's way better than it could have been.
I negotiated for the scalp.
He didn't let me keep it, unfortunately, but said it belongs to him now.
Yeah. He's wearing it now.
He had like 6 or 7 of them. He just kept piling them on.
That's why they call him Scalpy.
Now I know. It all
Now we
makes
know.
sense.
Well, we actually might need to like put that down. There's a couple characters we're working on. We're working on a script right now that's just going with like so much like I think like the best momentum that we've had since film school. I think like working on something that's just coming, and like I'm totally fine with like that character would fit right into how dumb this fucking show is gonna be.
Totally.
Is it that ridiculous and like abstract?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
the tone is like Trailer Park Boys meets X-Files.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like we're like just and like finally doing like the double team, kind of doing like the buddy cop or the buddy comedy and stuff like that or whatever. But like with us, it's just
Totally.
been
Just being like
It's fun.
shitty detectives.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
even like I was talking to my dad last night. He was telling me a story about a guy that he used to work with, and he's like, "Yeah, you remember Surprise Face Daryl?" And I'm like, "Who the fuck?" Yeah, exactly. Every time he's like, "Hey, Daryl." And I'm sitting there and I was just like, I'm talking to my dad at dinner and I'm like, fuck, that's money in the bank right there.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have to steal that one for sure.
Well, that's the thing. I don't
Get
know,
a
but
minute?
yeah, well, no, I don't. No, dude, we need to write the weirdo hero into it because at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm definitely on board. I'm definitely
Well,
on board.
that's
yeah.
something that we've been looking at. I mean, there's, well, actually, we can get inside baseball.
cool.
Let's go back
Cool.
to
Yeah.
back to Rancid.
Back to wrestling.
But no. When you're deciding, like, what do you think is like the key to doing anything that you love for like 20 years? I mean, has there been pitfalls? Like, I mean, I imagine like something like WWF or WWE, right? Was like any of that ever the in the cards, or do you kind of see a longer future for it doing it in the more grassroots kind of
So like I like being from Calgary and stuff like that. Like I think why I like gravitated towards wrestling was I think we need to really see like have examples of people making it in what we want to make it in. You know, like a lot of people from like LA are more likely to be actors or actresses or whatever, be in show business because they see people directly doing that. Yeah. People that are around people within the music industry will see that. So like being from Calgary, there was like nobody that was really like, I always wanted to be part of show business and always like wanted to be a performer. And there wasn't a lot of people that like famous actors or whatever coming from there, but there was Bret Hart, who was like the most famous wrestler of all time. So I think that had like a big part of me wanting to like being like, oh, this person can make it. Like it's doable to get out of this town and become like, I consider like Bret Hart Canada's biggest rock star, and I know that's like controversial maybe to say, but I don't think anyone's cooler.
Fuck that. Fuck that. I mean? We have a good friend. Or should we burn that? Should we burst that bubble? Somebody was talking about a musical the other day. It's like Hamilton is the American musical or whatever. Yep. It should be Heart, the Canadian musical. Oh, yeah, totally. Just like, you know what I mean? Like
100%.
He deserves. And I would get like absolutely behind that. Being I've always been funny and always wanted to do something around comedy, but coming from such a small town where there's no, like, that's not the thing. Like, when you graduate, you go to get a trade, and then that's the thing. So after like 10 years of plumbing, and you start to see like, oh, wait a minute, like I can get into this kind of thing, or you can sidestep and do it. But starting so much younger and having a kid can see that's like a dream is attainable is like the biggest. That's a fucking gift, you know.
Exactly.
What I mean? Totally.
And I think that helped like all of the like third generation Hearts get to where they got, and they all got to like WWE. That was always the goal, because that was the goal for Bret. That was like the apex, right? So like me following in people's footsteps who were following in other people's footsteps, that always made like WWE my goal. Being like raised by like WWF and WWE, totally. That was always like the thing I wanted to do. And then in like, what year was it? 2009? Yeah. Okay. 2009, I went down to Florida for like a tryout. So they had like WWE had these tryouts that you could like, you know, like really cool. Most jobs have where you pay to go for a job interview. So I
you pay them to go get.
I paid $1,000 to like go for like a job interview. But I looked at it as like
Vince has been making some shitty moves for a long time, right? Vince, come on, man.
Yeah, like there was like 72 of us in that camp too. So that was like $72,000, right?
My God.
For like
just to say no to most of them.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Holy shit.
But they didn't say no to me.
No,
right?
Oh,
so
wow.
they actually offered me a contract after it. So they gave 2 contracts at the end to like stars, and I went there to just like learn from like, I'm like, this is a great opportunity to learn directly from WWE.
Honestly, and if you love doing something, like paying $1,000 to get your foot in the door of like
Totally.
the pinnacle of the, you know what I mean?
I think we'd all pay $1,000 to learn from like the top comedians now.
Yeah.
Like I had like lectures directly from Jericho, from like Christian, from like John Cena came in. Like it was like the top people were like, and Dusty Rhodes was helping us with promos and stuff like that. Like it was the top.
That's
so
insane.
It was totally worth it.
That's like money well spent, honestly.
Exactly.
You know what, Vince? Never mind. I take that back.
Yeah. You're horrible, but that was okay. So then I came back, thought I'd done okay at the training. Like I knew that Dusty really liked my promos. He had called me out to do more promos a couple times. Nice. So then I came back, and then I was waiting for my performance review, which was supposed to come, and I waited 6 weeks, which was supposed to come, never came. And then finally I got a phone call from them, and then they were like, oh, offered me a contract.
No shit.
And I'm like, oh fuck. So that was a big deal, right? So then I like,
fuck yeah.
I'm waiting on my work visa for a certain amount of time. They asked me if I would have any drugs in my system, and I'm like, well, like I'm small. I'm not like, they were worried about like steroids and stuff like that. Especially because at that time it was right after like some big deaths within wrestling.
Fair enough.
Like and they were really trying to clean up their act, because publicly they looked like shit for a long time.
Right.
Oh, well, absolutely, right. I think they were gassing guys. Like I mean, with like Buff Bagwell and fucking like some of those dudes where like there was an era there where these guys are like it's too much. Like when you see a guy like Triple H come back after like an injury and like to just be fucking
3 times bigger than he was before.
Yeah.
And they're like that, plus like the combination of making your heart really big from steroids and then doing a lot of cocaine. Like making your muscle that big and then making it pump so fast will like end your life.
Well, and it has a lot, right? I mean, especially like in your industry, man, there's a lot of, great talent that is
totally. So understandably so, they were asking about drugs. I told them they'd find a cornucopia amount of marijuana in my system. And then they told me that it was like a $500 fine, that like don't
for the weed that was already in your system,
or it would be like if I popped the drug test, then I would be a $500 fine.
Right.
And then at that point they were like offering me $750 a week. And I'm like, I've never made $750.
You're kidding.
I've still never made
$750. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. I can afford $500 for my first one. I was like super like, I wasn't expecting shit, right? Like, and here I am, like I'm an anxious motherfucker, so I smoke a lot of weed to help with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So here's like the biggest opportunity in my life, and I'm, believe it or not, anxious about it.
Oh, I
Yeah,
couldn't
of
imagine.
course.
So I'm smoking a lot of weed, and then they finally called me up for the test. I go down, I get popped for weed, as I knew they would. They called me up and they said, "No, you suck. I hate you." Yeah, and then they took back the contract from me. Then
No shit.
Yeah,
Oh my
they did. They
God.
said they're like, yeah, we don't know who do you think you are smoking this weed or something like that. You made some. We don't think you make very good choices, and we're gonna have to rescind the contract.
In a
Oh
fucking
my
industry
God.
filled with like
Yeah.
much harder drug use.
Totally.
And they couldn't see through like a medicinal kind of purpose, or you're almost using it therapeutically, and
Yeah.
right? That's
And you
fucking
told
crazy.
them ahead of time.
Exactly.
It's
I
not
was-
like
I
you
was
were
totally
being
straight up.
dishonest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just flew home to fly back,
Basically.
or sorry, flew there to fly home.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
So so back to your original question, that kind of left me with like, okay, so kind of I felt like I'd almost burned that bridge with WWE
Sure.
at the time, right?
Right.
Like I wasn't going to get any calls anytime soon. They were the only dog in the fight at that point because all the other promotions had closed down,
Yeah.
major promotions, right? So I had to kind of like, and I'd already done like a tour.
Shit,
which
it'd be
really
like 10
sucked.
years before they even had any competition again,
Yeah.
too, right?
Right.
Like, that's wild.
So I'd already done and said goodbye. Like I went around Canada saying like, this is my final show. I'm living my dream. Thank you all so much for believing in me. And then
I'm going to the show, and then 2 weeks later, hey boys.
yeah, how goes it? My
Yeah.
music comes on again. And I'm like,
You're like, that was a fun bit I was doing before.
yeah, remember that? Hey. And so then I had to decide whether I was gonna like give up,
Right.
like because I didn't have
Yeah.
I kind of like let my tail between my legs and walk away, or if
Totally.
I was gonna continue to do the independent stuff. And then it's like it was just what I did. So somebody got pulled out of the next show. There was like 2 weeks later there was a show that happened, and one of the wrestlers got injured that was advertised, and I'm like, they needed like somebody to fill in the mystery
Yeah.
role.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that'll get me at least a little pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they
Yeah.
right, and I got that
Absolutely.
little pop,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'm like, okay. So then I just kind of been sticking with the independent thing since then, and just kind of like doing it along the West Coast and
Totally.
along trying to see if I can make it go this way. And like looking back, I don't know whether WWE would have been a fit. Like
Right.
I think I would have
That's
been fired.
interesting.
You know,
Yeah.
by now for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be with them anymore. And knowing like my like punk rocky ways,
Yeah.
I don't know whether I wouldn't have rubbed somebody the wrong way, or if
Totally.
they tried to like press
Right.
my buttons or bully
Yep.
me at all,
Yep.
or any of that
Yep.
stuff. If I had been comfortable like with that, or if I had just been like, fuck you, I'm gonna spray paint my name on your building or some
Yeah,
bullshit, you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it all worked out for the best. I think I met some great friends after that, and I've like done some really cool stuff since then. I have been able, like I wasn't out in the ring at that point. I
Yep.
don't know whether that would have ever happened with WWE and their, like the way that they bring up their talent and
Yeah.
stuff like
Right.
that.
And that's like far before NXT. Like they didn't have kind of like when a guy got like an opportunity, it was almost like luck. If you know, what I mean,
Oh,
almost like
100%,
try
yeah.
out and see if if you're working with the crowd or whatever. And then, I mean, sometimes they'll take like people that I think are on like a good path, and then like put Owen Hart in a fucking blue mask or something. Like you know what I mean, and just
Exactly,
do like they've kind of been known for doing weird shit. But in the past, maybe like I don't know, 3 years, I've really started to see like my interest peak again, you know what I mean? Like my nostalgia is kind of coming back, and obviously, you know what I mean? Like meeting you and kind of, you know what I mean? Guys like Ravi and stuff like
Yeah.
that, you know, kind of being
Yeah.
around
Totally.
like wrestling fans again.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to notice it. Even like it's kind of like WWE would fucking like tank NXT or something like that.
Yeah.
But like for a minute here, there's been like a lot kind of going on. Like, do you see now that like with a little bit more age, maybe a little bit wiser or something? Is there going to be like room for another push, or does that even is that even in the cards?
I don't know. Like things were going so great before COVID.
Yep.
Like honestly, I was working with a promotion called Defy. I'm still working with them, but like
Still
they're-
got the
they're in
belt, but they're
Seattle.
gonna you can't.
Yeah, so
Or-
yeah,
Can't
like I
go over
won
there.
I won the championship at my
Yeah.
last show,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it was like they're a big independent promotion. I would say that they're like kind of like what ECW was back in the
Okay.
day, but like that kind of independent level show, but like their fans are like rabid in the same way, but
Yep.
they're rabid in a new evolved progressive way. Like they're
Nice.
super lovey. They're like all consider themselves family and are
Oh,
all really
perfect.
kind for each other and like look out for each other and are super supportive of the fans and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So or
They're
of
not
the-
going to throw
of the
50
wrestlers.
chairs at fucking Terry Funk or
No,
something.
no, they're so
Yeah.
sweet. Like they're the sweetest audience.
Yeah.
And so I was working with them and was able to become like their champion, stuff like that. And to me,
That's
that
very
was like
cool.
what I'd
That's
always
awesome.
like wanted was like to be like that independent
Absolutely.
underground hero kind
Yeah,
of thing.
fuck
It gave
yeah.
me the opportunity to do that in front of like what was like the new cool and the hip, you know what
Very
I mean?
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Definitely.
Seattle, which is a cool city, like
Yeah,
oh, like,
absolutely.
this perfect fit.
Yeah.
And then all this kind of stuff has gone down, and now so it's been like we said, the championship is now. It's been 18 months. I don't even know.
Jesus
too long,
Christ.
Yeah.
too
Too
long
long.
time.
Yeah.
And now they're gonna have to like have the championship is up tomorrow night for an interim championship.
Right.
So they're gonna
Yeah.
have to like put the belt on someone else for now, and now with the border being maybe extended, who knows when I'll be able
Yeah.
to go back down there.
Yeah.
And
So is
defend
that one of those
Yeah.
things like
winning
and
stuff.
are you waiting for like is it like a work visa? Because like I mean I went to Vegas to party, but you
Yeah.
can't go to Seattle to work. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of like
a whole bunch.
logistics and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. That like I'm not even allowed. Like legally, I'm not even allowed to talk about.
Oh no shit.
Oh,
Okay.
which is
yeah.
dumb,
Yeah.
right?
Oh
Right.
yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's hard for
Yeah.
me too because like I'm a very open with what I am. Right? And that's
100%,
actually what
yeah.
I've gotten to this like the connection with the fans that I've built up. I feel is by being sincere.
Yeah.
Oh, of
So
course,
not being able to like them being like, hey, you on the next show? I see the borders opened up. Hey, yeah, and I have to be like, soon, friends.
Yeah.
Yay! And I'm like,
Yeah,
ugh,
it's
well,
a
it's
shitty
like,
position to
yeah.
be in, yeah.
That's gotta just fucking eat at you. But I mean,
Yeah.
is there like at least enough going on now with NEW up here that there's some, you're getting
Hope.
a little bit of action, hopefully?
yeah, a little bit, yeah. And I think like I don't know, you never know. Like you just
Yep.
got to take what you've got. Like this
Totally.
is super fun. I was really excited to do this podcast with you all
absolutely.
today. I'm excited about like just other opportunities. I've done
Totally.
wrestling for so long. Like I said, I was kind of like planning on doing other stuff, and I don't know whether if COVID hadn't come along, if I would have jumped into comedy because I was
Right.
always
Totally.
busy doing wrestling stuff.
Right.
Wrestling shows, and I never maybe would got to walk down this path and like
Yeah.
have other opportunities and like
Yeah.
do cool new stuff.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So was it during COVID that you started stand up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Right
I'd like
on, yeah.
tried it beforehand and
Right.
like done like a class with like Katie Ellen and stuff like that, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
had one-off show, and then tried to do a couple open mics and bombed them the hell out of them. And then then during COVID was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna take this
Nice.
on and actually try
Yeah, well,
and,
yeah,
like,
you've been like
Yeah.
a force or whatever. Like, I mean, just kind of knowing, like, just getting into it, and kind of starting out. We were on a lot of the same shows together, and it was cool because like we go in and kind of do like a lot of dark shit and like kind of like taking swings and stuff. A lot of stuff like with material, kind of going like shit, I don't know. But then like every time I see you on stage, I'm like, oh, I can take whatever fucking swing I want.
awesome. That's great.
Yeah, like it really is. Yeah, no, I mean that.
I'm glad I inspired like insanity or risk taking.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah, I
very
think
much
that's
so,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's true though. Like I mean, the more I've learned that in wrestling, like the bigger we can be, the better. You know what I
100
mean,
yeah.
and stuff like that. And you two both do that very well as well. You know, and I love being like seeing y'all on shows as well. Like I love. I think that we can like when I see that we followed each other a couple times or been in opposition, and it feels
Yeah.
like such great energy. Where I feel like I
Yeah.
come out with such big. Maybe over the top masculine in some ways, but feminine in other ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
high energy but like trying to be sweet or like soft, and
Yeah.
then you come out and you can be like just kind of a little more strong. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I'm like,
Well, like you expect
Not sweet.
you expect what you get, like what you guys deliver is what I would expect from the other
Exactly.
one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right? I would expect something a little bit more sweet out of this package. And I would expect something a little bit more aggressive out of this package.
totally.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's why
Yeah.
it works so
Yeah,
nice.
it really does.
Totally. Yeah,
That's
no,
awesome.
we always love seeing you at shows. We're always excited when we see you on the lineup. We're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Oh,
It's gonna be
absolutely.
good.
Yeah, no, definitely.
yeah.
And I mean, we're going to land the plane here in a second, but
Cool.
we're going to ask you what you're doing tonight because I mean, I was
What are you doing tonight?
Jackie's
We're
on two
gonna
shows
be
down
at
at
Susie's.
Oh, cool,
And then
okay.
we're also gonna. Well, we might check out depending on how we're feeling after the late show. Sean's doing his Hot Ones.
Yeah. Where's that at?
He's doing it at this new venue. I don't even know how to pronounce it. The Moten, MOTN. I did a show there a couple weeks back. It's like this guy. He doesn't do comedy, but he's like a comedy fan, and he for some reason has this like room on the downtown east side that's like I don't know what they do there. We were trying to
I don't know
figure
what they
it
do.
out.
They do tattoos.
They sell
and studio space.
t-shirts.
They sell weed.
They
and
sell
fucking,
t-shirts.
and,
They do
and
tattoos.
beer
Yeah,
at
they
the
sell
show. So
weed.
you can
and
smoke joints on the show. It's
and then
awesome.
there's
rad.
like an adjoining room that's like has a stage and stuff, and they have all these really cool lights. And so I think it might end up
being like a new like venue that people just book independent shows at.
Cool. That's
Especially now with like LMG shutting down, it might be like a cool little room that people start doing shows
good to
at.
know. Yeah, because like a place that you can kind of like rent for cheap is important.
Yeah, and
That
this
wouldn't be
guy's
like- I
pretty
mean, that'd
chill.
be-
Yeah,
that'd be a
and
fun
he
one.
really likes comedy, so
Absolutely.
he seemed
Yeah,
like
man. If you have
down
anything,
there.
if you have anything to do, let's land this plane, and then we'll talk
Sure.
about that
Okay.
off the thing.
Yeah.
What do you tell the people where they can find
Yeah.
you?
Where they can find me? Oh, if you want to like hunt me down, you can find me at the Weirdo Hero on Instagram or at Ravenous Randy on Twitter, or you can come to my house and throw presents through my window if you like. And all you have to do is DM me, and I'll give you that address, no problem. Okay? And you can also find me at most rec centers at least once a week.
So do you have any events coming up to plug?
Yeah, there's January 15th, the Commodore Ballroom for
Hell
new
yeah.
wrestling, and hopefully I'll be doing some stuff states bound coming up as well.
Very nice.
So yeah, I think that's it. Comedy stuff. Always check out my Instagram feed for that stuff as well, and I'll kind of
Absolutely.
whore that out as best I can. Whore it out.
Pour it out. Are you green flashers? Scroll down because we're gonna have all the links for all
Yeah,
that stuff just
flashers.
below.
Right there. Boom.
Right on. Thanks for coming
All
out,
right,
man. You're
thank
the
you
best,
so
dude.
much.